Thank you for joining the Expert Solutions webinar. We will begin at the top of the hour. James, as we're waiting for folks to trickle in, how many feet of snow do you have in Alabama today?
There are 0 feet of snow in Alabama today. I'm
Really?
happy to report.
That's
I
good
believe the temperature is somewhere right around 73 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, we definitely are in different areas of the country, because in Colorado we've got at least 2 and it continues to come down. So lucky you for it being 73 in Alabama.
Yes, but it will be 173 in July. So there are offsets. Yeah.
How about you, Samantha? Is it coming down in Minneapolis?
It has been. Right now, we're having the joy of the Minnesota January rain that becomes ice. So right now we're kind of at that in between where it's slush right now, but we've definitely got several feet on the ground.
Well, stay safe.
Yeah.
We have just a few more seconds till we get started. Folks are trickling in. Thank you everyone for joining. We're going to start at the top of the hour with the Expert Solutions webinar. Okay, it is 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. We're going to go ahead and kick things off. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. I'm the host of this webinar series. My name is Ryan Pacchini. I'm the head of go-to-market strategy here at Total Expert, and we're thrilled that you're joining us for our 5th episode. In this webinar series, we talk about a specific problem that we solve for financial institutions. The topic today is how to drive deposit growth and retention. I'm going to introduce our esteemed guests here in just a moment, but before I do, just a few housekeeping items. If you have questions, we always do our best to answer them throughout the webinar. Please place them in the chat. If we cannot get to them in real time, we promise to get back to you within 72 hours. A recording of this webinar will be sent within 72 hours. So if you miss any of the important details, you will have the chance to listen to it again. You could always share it with colleagues and others in the industry that might find value in it as well. So with that being said, I'm joined by 3 thought leaders and experts in the industry as it comes to how you can help banks and credit unions grow. The first is Jessica Gardner. She has been in the industry for many years, has deep expertise in all things go-to-market and helping banks and credit unions grow. James White, who is the industry principal for banks and credit unions here at Total Expert, and Samantha Thielen, team lead and one of our senior solutions engineers at Total Expert, who knows our product deep and all different facets of it. She's going to run you through a quick demo today. But before I dive in, the format of the Expert Solutions webinar is a brief discussion, about 30 minutes with 2 industry thought leaders. In this case, it's James and Jessica. It will be followed by a 5 to 8 minute demo delivered by Sam. She's going to walk through all the details of how our platform works as it pertains to driving deposit growth and retention. And then we obviously leave some time for Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and introduce our guests. Jessica, would you like to start? Say a quick hello, followed by James and Samantha, please.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just thrilled to be here, and I do love to talk anything, growth and retention related. It's very near and dear to my heart in terms of customer experience and how can we make our institutions better, right? Our financial institutions better. So I'm thrilled that you asked to join me, and I hardly ever get called esteemed, so I'll take it every day.
I think it's warranted based on our discussions today, Jessica. Thanks. Yo.
Yes, good morning for those who are on the West Coast, and good afternoon for those on the East Coast. Happy to be here. I know in a rising rate environment, we're really having to flex muscles that we haven't had to flex in quite some time. And so really excited about the conversation today.
Thanks, James. Samantha, over to you.
Yeah, hi, good morning, good afternoon. Excited to be here. Excited to walk everybody through the Total Expert platform and really dig into how we can actually help with what we're going to be talking about today.
Great. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So our agenda today is we're going to start with the deposit arms race, followed by proving growth strategies, how you create this growth strategy, some of the opportunity costs, and then a demo, like I mentioned, that Samantha will deliver. So let's start with the deposit arms race and why there's a myopic focus. I'm going to kick things off with you, James. How do we get to a place that deposits, both growing deposits and retaining deposits, has become a top 3 priority for leaders at banks and credit unions?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, and a lot of us have been talking about this for a few years, that it was possibly coming, where we have a lot of what we would call park deposits or sleepy deposits that have just been sitting somewhere because there hasn't been a good return on them. And you've also started to see investors invest in things that I would call unnatural investments because they're looking for returns. And so now that we have all of these deposits that have been sitting there for so long, and we're starting to see the rates increase, a lot of these park depositors are looking for places to move them, and they're seeing marketing out there around high rates and low-term CDs that really they need to be careful about. But you're starting to see some of that movement where money has been free for so long that people have just been looking for returns, and now they're starting to see, at least from a marketing perspective, the opportunity to get those returns.
No, that's great. And the opportunity with deposits you highlighted, but let's talk about deposits as a tool or as a conduit to build a lifelong financial relationship with a consumer. It's been said that deposits are critical to becoming the primary financial institution, but there are some thought leaders who are refuting that concept or idea because they believe that there's always choice at a consumer's fingertips. At any time they can search online or they can connect with someone on social who can make a recommendation. What's your perspective? Are deposits still the conduit to building a lifelong financial relationship? Jessica, I'm actually gonna I'll ask you to take a shot at that one to start.
Oh, good. I'm so excited. I was ready for it. So yeah, I think that some banks have built a profitable strategy around being that secondary bank, right? And so they've built a strategy around, I can either lead with not necessarily a checking account, which has been kind of the ongoing thoughtful, that for so long, that's what everybody's always thought that you needed to do. I think the risk that comes with that is being, as a place where consumers can kind of park your money, is that you're more susceptible to runoff. You haven't really created that deeper relationship. So it's harder to retain, right, those deposits. But it's really about what is your bank or credit union's approach and strategy to building deposits, and thinking about it more from a little bit of segmentation and a little bit of customer life cycle value, and then also, or life cycle marketing, and then also kind of mapping your product adoption path. And there is this, if you take a look at your customer base and you say, okay, for all customers that started, and we did this, for all customers that started with us with a checking account, we can see that they have thousands more, they've adopted so many more other products within this, right? And with just a mortgage, we've seen a significant runoff, right? And so it's either how do we adapt our marketing strategy to address that, knowing that that's, what could potentially happen, or recognizing that and just making, that work to your advantage as an institution. And so it's really about, what do you want, with your customer base? What are you looking to accomplish? What does profitability look like for you? And then finding, the right strategy for that, because more than half of consumers have more than one financial institution. So it's not like it's just, your corner bank that we've always known and loved. It's not the credit union your parents grew up with anymore.
Yeah, Jessica, and the concept you talked about, someone coming in through a checking account and the path to sustained growth in terms of relationship with that customer is really an interesting one, versus if they come in, let's say through the mortgage side of business, and you don't see the same path to growth. What role does education play in growing the financial relationship once it maybe starts with deposits? How do you think about education as a conduit to moving.
It's so critical, right? Absolutely. I mean, Ryan, I don't think that we can overstate that education and onboarding. You know, there is really some, what does your customer journey look like in your onboarding? What is that effective, onboarding process, and how are you giving them the right information at the right time based on the segment and what they're looking for? So Deloitte had a study out, and I want to say 40% of consumers have abandoned a bank during an onboarding process. Can you imagine that? So you spend all of this money up front to bring these customers in, right? To bring these members in. You've spent your hard-won, hard-fought, I've been in the industry budget on that customer acquisition. The messaging resonated, the campaigns worked, you did all the right things, and then you lose them because of some frustration or broken and inefficient process in the onboarding, or maybe you didn't give them the right information or didn't educate them in the right way. So it's really a direct blow to your bottom line not to take that opportunity and educate customers as they go through the process about, what your institution offers, obviously, how to get the most out of their relationship to you, and how you can be a resource to them, as they go through the life cycle. I think that all of those things are really, really critically important.
Yeah, Jessica, that's great. James, maybe I'll kick it to you. This idea of education, Jessica used that stat that 40%, don't fully engage or utilize that account. It's well understood that education is critical. Where is the gap? Why are financial institutions falling short in educating their consumers at that initial point in their relationship?
Yes, so I would argue that as a community bank or a credit union, it's your responsibility to keep your customers and members financially healthy. You're the expert. You should be the trusted advisor. And when you really want to do education or financial health, it has to be more than just checking a box, a blog that you're hoping that your customers or members are looking at. It needs to be something where you're engaging those customers and members, sending out content to them that is important to them, especially as you understand their data and you understand what's important to them. A great example, as we're talking about deposit arms race, is making sure that your customers or members understand what's out there and what some of the pitfalls are from moving deposits, and making sure that they know that you have their best interest at heart. Obviously, cost of funds is a balance, and you're constantly trying to negotiate that so that you're not paying too much for deposits, but you also are going to be willing to pay to keep those customers or members there within your institution. So I think that we just need to be more active and engaged in the industry and really reaching out to our customers and making sure that we're not just relying on them to educate themselves from our website.
Great.
Yeah, can I say one more thing, Ryan? Sorry, I was excited by something that James said. This idea of the market's more competitive for deposits. So thinking about how do we drive that customer-centric experience, right, to connect with our current and potential customers, and then tying it back to what's happening. We as financial institutions have so much data around who our customers are and what's happening in their lives right now, and leveraging that to help, not in a creepy way, but in a proactive way that says my customers feel known, my members feel understood, they feel connected to me and to our institution and to our brand, is really powerful. A great example, this is from my personal experience. My husband served in the military. And when he was preparing to separate from the military, I got a series of emails from our financial institution. You can probably guess who it was, but as the spouse telling me, these are the things that you need to be considering, and these are the ways that we can help you as an institution. I felt very known, and not in a creepy way, but in a, gosh, how helpful are you? You understand the challenges and the pitfalls, and you understand who I am as your customer, and it definitely engendered a deep sense of loyalty. So anyway.
That's great, just because, I mean, the life event that took place is a major opportunity to engage, right, and understand who you were as a member of that organization. And I think that's a good segue if we move into the next section, which is what are the proven ways to drive deposits? One is knowing who who your members or customers are and leveraging things like life events and the data that you have. But what are other tried and true strategies to grow deposits that we haven't touched on yet?
Do you want me to start? I'm happy to, yeah.
Go for it. Yeah, Jessica, why don't you go? You're on a roll, and then we'll go to James.
I'm real excited. I'm so sorry, James. Yeah, this is James. If we were close, you'd kick me under the table and it would be.
No, not at all. Not at all. People get tired at Total Expert of listening to me all the time. So it's great to have somebody who actually knows what they're talking about.
Not a chance. Yeah. I think that the natural tendency, right, as we enter, I keep hearing the recession word, and it is a time of economic uncertainty, and that natural tendency is to pull back, right? To pull back on our spending, to pull back on our marketing campaigns. But there's a big capitalized but here. The banks and credit unions that position themselves as a resource, like we were talking about earlier, to help guide consumers through tough times, have so much to gain. There was a research study by Analytics Partners, and they talked about 60% of brands that increased their media investment during the last recession saw an increased return on their investment, while those who slashed spending lost 15% of their business to competitors who instead, basically stole share of wallet. They stole market share, right? And so thinking about how do you do this it's not about doing it irresponsibly, right? I'm not suggesting that community banks take out or credit unions take out Super Bowl ads or something, really outlandish, right? It's about thinking who are the customers that are the most profitable for us? What are we trying to drive within the product sphere? And then how do we acquire those customers in a way that maximizes their profitability? So where do they live? Who are they? What are their personas? And then how do we find them in a way that is likely omni-channel, right? So you can't just go with, it's probably not just one or another. It's likely a digital first, but you also have a place for those more traditional means and social media. There's a lot of different ways that you can reach those customers, but it's about thinking first, who is that customer? What are we trying to do as an institution and marrying those goals together?
That's great. Thanks, Jessica. James, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the one thing I would add is as you've segmented those customers or those prospects out, you want to make sure also that you can build a relationship with them. It's about building that long-term relationship, and that's a buzzword that's easily said, but it's difficult these days. When we were kids, you built your relationship with your financial institution because the branch manager went to church with you, or their kids were in class with you, and you went into the branch and you knew their name, they knew your name, all those things. You live life together, and that's not the way that you build relationships these days. Just as Jessica, you were talking about, making sure that you're engaging them and communicating to them in the right way, because that's what's going to keep them there, and they're going to become profitable, over the lifetime too. So,
thanks for that, James. And I think you talked about the relationship and how the concept of a relationship has evolved, right? And I think that's critical in terms of how you think about deposit growth. The other part of this is the actual products that you offer, right? There's the relationships, but if you don't have the offering that is going to meet the needs of a specific customer or member, then they're still going to shop. So can each of you take a turn talking about product mix and product design as a component of delivering a great customer experience when it comes to deposits?
Well, Jessica, you've been killing it so far. Why don't you start first, and then I'll follow up.
Okay, I'll do my best here. Yeah, so this idea, and I think so often you can be to see it, right? As a member of a marketing team, small community bank, so I understand the challenges that come along with the data's already there. And so it comes back to, in my mind at least, mapping your customer, here is my ideal customer based on profitability, based on opportunity, based on all those, based on our ability to acquire. It could be based on geography, depending on what your institution looks like, right? And then saying, okay, within that customer, I need to understand what does their life cycle look like? What life stage are they in? And then where can I provide the right product at the right time to bring them into my institution and then maximize that over time, right? And so it's a little bit of understanding from a very, in a very simple way, the product adoption paths that each segment takes, right? And so I come in, I'm a first-time home buyer. I am a young millennial, not leading edge, I'm young. So I'm maybe 27, 28, and I'm buying my first home. And oh, we can also offer you, a way to pay for your mortgage payment, right? And then because we're entering this shift in deposit value, we're entering this generational wealth shift that's happening right now. And it's just going to continue. Those customers are the ones that are going to be really targeted to institutions or targeted by institutions who need those deposits in the future. So if we build that relationship now based on where they are in their life stage, we give them a great experience, we give them a great, customer experience, we understand what their challenges are, we mine our data and our customer experience and our feedback information loops, and then we continue to improve and we continue to offer them the right things and align our product offerings with where those key customer segments are. I think that that's really the strategy for success. I just think it's so critical that our customers want to feel, and our consumers and our members want to feel known, they want to feel connected, they want to feel like you understand who they are. And institutions, financial institutions particularly, make a lot of promises about that, but we don't really do it effectively. And it doesn't take, a data analytics engine like Amazon or an algorithm, from Google to really help you understand them. It just takes looking into your data and thinking critically about it in a way that helps you build a really, effective strategy around product adoption, customer acquisition and retention. I don't know if that helps, but
one of the things I love that you said was you took a macro view on a bank or credit union's lever for growth. You talked about a specific customer segment that you needed to cater to that was going to drive growth, and building products around that segment, which obviously ties into deposits, right? You started with deposits, but that key customer segment, I think, was one of the critical things that you thought through.
Absolutely.
Obviously mining the data to validate that. James, anything that you'd add around?
Yeah, that was great. What I would add is it's also important to not overthink it. So one of the things that I think that we do as financial institutions that really gets in our way is we think about it from our perspective versus the customer or member's perspective. We think about it from the back office perspective when we're designing a product. How's the back office going to work? The customer or member doesn't care about the back office. That's our problem to solve. We often name the products things that may not resonate to that ideal customer profile. They may not know what a HELOC with a swing arm means. They nor do they desire to know what it means. So making sure that we're making it resonate. And then the other thing, just to add on what Jessica had said, that I think is really crucial and will become even more crucial throughout this year is relationship pricing. And so making sure that we're designing relationship pricing programs that allow customers or members to join multiple products or solutions, get better rates for that, or better pricing or better rewards or whatever makes sense. And then that continues to increase the stickiness. So it benefits the financial health of your customer or member, and then it also benefits you in the long run because it's going to be a stickier set of products.
Yeah, James, one of the things that we talked about with relationship pricing, a key element of that, as well as a key element of deposits, was CDs. Can you talk about the importance of CDs when it comes to growing deposits and retaining deposits?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how everything shifts as the increase. So CDs were a no-no for a lot of banks and credit unions not that long ago, 5-6 years ago, because they're kind of expensive and they're least profitable. They affect profitability overall in a negative way. And now most of us would take as many as we could get at a reasonable rate. And so CDs are a great way to keep cash fairly liquid, but be able to come in at a fairly low rate at a low risk for us as a financial institution. And so we've got a lot of CDs out there that are really low rates right now that may not even be at term, that we need to be really watching, because the rates have increased so much that someone can take an early term fee for a CD, renew that CD at a market rate, and still make more money over the term of that CD. And so we want to make sure that we're on top of our CDs. We're nurturing those CDs. So let's just say, as an example, we got an 18-month CD. At 6 months, we should be nurturing that CD customer or member with education. What does it mean to renew a CD? What are some of the pitfalls that are out there for some of the early adopters of high rates? Maybe those CDs don't compound, as an example, and yours do. So over the life of that CD, they would still make more money at their current rate than they would, at 3.5% without compounding. And those types of things, so that we make sure that we know when they're up for renewal and we're renewing them at a reasonable rate, trying to keep that cost of funds as low as possible. But the cream will rise to the top in a rising rate environment. And so we all have looked like geniuses for quite some time, and we haven't flexed a lot of these muscles, because just open the doors, we can grow 10, 20, 30%. Well, those days are over, at least for a period of time. And so we've got to make sure that we're leveraging the data in front of us. But that doesn't mean we have to boil the ocean. We don't have to implement a machine learning AI model, as Jessica mentioned, with an Amazon algorithm. It's just blocking and tackling, getting back to the basics.
James, the purpose of this webinar series, Expert Solutions, is to go deep on specific problems that we solve for our customers, right? And you hit on CDs and their renewed importance. I'd like to double click on some of that. Can you talk about promoting CD specials and customizing CD maturities to meet consumers' needs? Like, let's talk about the details or the guts of a CD program that's going to help someone grow deposits.
Absolutely. It's really a balancing act, and a good deposit strategist is key for your financial institution right now, to try to keep those cost of funds as low as possible. You're trying to not wake the sleepy depositor, the person who has those CDs and have renewed them for the past 30 years and probably are just going to auto renew again. But you don't want to wake them, but you also want to make sure that you're renewing those that are likely to leave, either whether it be park deposits, those who have just been waiting on rates to increase, or what about the transfer of wealth, making sure that you understand who the beneficiaries are and the descendants, and making sure that you're marketing to them within compliance. You can't, just completely market to them, but you can absolutely, if they have other accounts, make sure that you're educating them and things of that sort, so that you are offering products, as Jessica had mentioned, that are designed for those renewals that may be a higher rate or closer to a market rate, but it's easier for them to auto renew than it is to go join a new bank. Or a lot of the demographics for CD owners, they don't want to go to an internet bank. They want to have a branch that they can walk into and get a treat for their dog. So there's benefit, for that with us as well as community banks and credit unions. We just have to leverage it.
James, at the end of this webinar, if we have time, we're going to ask what kind of dog you have and why you selected that kind of dog, but we're going to keep going. I have tons of questions specifically around CDs, when to promote them, how you win market share of some of your competitors who are offering CDs, but I do want to transition to our next topic. So is there any other thoughts on CDs that you want to share in terms of being a lever to drive deposit growth that you didn't cover?
Yeah, the only thing I would ask or mention as well is, I've seen some of the best practices be tiered based CDs as well. according to dollars and terms, and being able to try to get some of those high net worth CDs without having to pay those rates to every CD customer. So
Great. James, you've been on the hot seat for a little bit. We're going to transition here and we're going to go back to Jessica. In our conversations leading up to this webinar, we discussed that how critical deposits are, but at the same time that they are an input, they are a part of an overarching strategy. So maybe Jessica, is there a downside for banks and credit unions when they are myopically focused on deposit growth?
Well, I think that when you become too focused on growing your deposits too fast, there's certainly an opportunity for fraud to happen within that, which is a big, which can drive a lot of cost. And so you have to be thoughtful about, the process that you, and James touched on this a little bit earlier, but this idea of what are our internal processes to control for that, right? Making sure it doesn't so negatively impact the customer's experience in such a way, that you're losing the opportunity with those customers, right? You're experiencing that runoff that Deloitte was talking about earlier. We were talking about with that study. And so I feel like there's a bit of a balancing act, right, in the way that we, try to dial up deposits and think about how your organization manages all of these components. There's also, being thoughtful around and really listening to your customers' feedback as you kind of go through this process. We at my current institution, we started dialing up national deposits on a national basis, and it was going, exceptionally well for us, and we're very excited. But what came along with that was customers have a way that they, when they run into trouble, most likely, and it doesn't matter the age, this isn't, these are not boomers, this is Gen X, and it's millennials, and it's Gen Z, it's everybody. When they run into trouble and they have an issue, they want to call. They want immediate satisfaction and understanding about what's happening, and particularly when it's related to something so like emotionally fraught as their finances, right? And so we saw this increase in our deposit calls, and we weren't staffed up to really address it. And so thinking about from soup to nuts, understanding, what that customer, what can you do on the back end to address those kind of things? Can you put FAQs on your sign up pages? Can you better craft your onboarding emails? All those kind of components so that you can head it off at the pass, so that you aren't inundating or pushing kind of the pig down the python or through the process. And so really marrying up that back end and upfront. And still addressing your institution's needs, understanding that you are not likely going to be all things to all people. And so it just makes it that much more critical that you understand who you're right for and how you reach them.
Yeah, I love the part that you talked about, the back end matching up to the front end customer experience and being prepared for that, because it's a shift in terms of resources and focus. And James, anything else you'd add to that? Like, what's the downside of deposits having such a myopic focus?
Yeah, so just because we're focused on deposits don't mean that the age-old problems are going away. B2C fintechs aren't just stopping marketing as an example. And so one of the things that I always say professionally, it's let's move a few things a mile instead of 1,000 things an inch. And so customer experience, account opening, the war for talent, all those things haven't gone away because we're looking for deposits. But the overarching theme that I believe is still all about relationships. So if you're really focusing on deposits with the long-term strategy of relationship, when it's time to pull the lever for loan growth again, you'll have those relationships. If it's non-interest income and transaction data or income you're looking for, you'll have those relationships. So focus on building the relationships as a long-term strategy as you're looking for deposits.
That's great. Thank you, James. Thank you, Jessica. We're going to transition now to Samantha Thielen, who's going to deliver a demo of the Total Expert platform, specifically in the context of how we can help you drive deposits and retain those deposits. So Samantha, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Jessica and James. Like mentioned, what I'm going to be focusing on in today's demonstration is how to grow deposits with Total Expert. And so Total Expert is a customer engagement platform really built to allow your marketing team to have the data and resources necessary to be able to reach your customers, to be able to educate, advise with the right message at the right time. So if Ryan, if you could make me a presenter so that I can share my screen.
You got it.
Thank you. And so again, what I'm going to be focusing on are just two use cases, since we've got just a few minutes here, on really Total Expert and how we can help your marketing team really reach your customers with the right message to grow your deposits. We're going to be focusing on two key areas of the platform. The first being what we call Campaign Builder. And so again, Total Expert as an entire platform is going to be integrated into your key data systems. So integrated into your core or your data warehouse, for example. And so what that really allows your team to do is to be nimble, to adjust to the market, and to be able to get messages out to your customer base when you need to. So in this example, we're going to focus on a cross-sell example where maybe the rates have shifted and I want to offer a special timely promotional rate to my existing depository base for a CD opportunity. So here I've started a campaign, but what I want to be able to show here is the ability within the system to actually be able to access all of the data that I have on my customer base to really build a tailored and segmented campaign. So in this case, maybe what I'm looking for is my active checking account or my active depository customers. So I'm going to pull in everybody who has an active account. Maybe what I want to do is actually refine this a little bit and look at account balances that are above a certain threshold. So maybe I'll say for this, 10,000. And so what I'm really able to do is layer in these rules, both inclusion and exclusion rules, so that I'm creating this hyper-focused audience to be able to send this promotion to. So the idea here, though, is that I'm not needing to request that IT query their core, query my core to be able to pull a list that I then have to refine to upload into another system that then I need approval to be able to send a marketing communication. We're really putting the power in your marketing team's hands to be able to really do that refinement right within the campaign itself. And so now that I've built my audience, the next step is going to be actually adding in my content. And so here is where, I'm going to choose this email that I just created. That's again, focusing on a timely rate promotion. Again, I could choose multiple emails here. In this case, I'm just going to send one. And then I've added that to my campaign. And so the last piece is actually just scheduling out when this communication will go out. So I can schedule this maybe for tomorrow morning, or I could send immediately once I launch this campaign. But the idea, again, is that we're allowing your marketing team to really build out these campaigns from start to finish within a single solution, allowing you to better focus on how you're tailoring your messaging, how you're building your relationship with your existing customer or member base, and then being able to deploy that campaign really seamlessly. Now, the last piece that I want to show in Campaign Builder is, again, the importance of also understanding how your campaigns have actually performed. So here I'm going to look at a campaign that I ran in the past, where I can see all of my marketing KPIs for the campaign overall, as well as how each individual email performed. So Total Expert is hyper-focused on really empowering your teams to not only create these campaigns, but also to be able to understand how they performed, so that maybe I want to use this offer again in the future. I can go ahead and learn from what went well, where my successes were, as well as where I want to iterate on. So that's an example of being able to deploy an ad hoc campaign or communication. In this case, a cross-sell example for a CD promotion, to be able to get that out to the right people at the right time. What I also would like to show you is what we call journey automation. And so journey automation is really the functionality to set up rules and to set up a campaign that's always on and always working in the background to really understand when the best time is to actually reach your audience. So in this case, we're focusing on a retention play. So this journey is actually going to trigger when a CD is up for renewal, or maybe not quite up for renewal, but getting to the point where they're going to be up for renewal soon. So what's happening is it's triggering automatically based on when that expiration date is, or when, how much time has elapsed since that CD was started. And then it's going to begin nurturing and educating your customer. Like Jess was mentioning in her example on an institution that was really helping her understand, as her husband was transitioning out of the military, what she may need to know. Our journeys are helping you to trigger these kinds of workflows and examples based on where your customers are in their own financial journey. So here we have a series of communications set to engage, to better educate, to help convince your customer why they should renew this CD, rather than being, rate jumpers and just kind of going for whatever they think the best rate is elsewhere. Now, the other piece though with journeys, so we've talked about the fact that they are automated, that they trigger at the right time based on the right criteria, similar to how the campaign builder worked. What our journeys do is they're not just a drip campaign. So it looks at first as if this is set up to, send a series of educational content automatically, and that is happening. But what our journeys can also do is actually identify where your customer is at in this experience, and always use data to better understand, number one, if it should continue that nurture, or if it should stop that nurture and educate or engage or nurture in some other way or capacity. So in this example, again, we're educating somebody who's coming up for a renewal on a CD. What you'll notice is I have this second little string of a workflow where what we're actually doing is monitoring a customer who is on this journey. And when they do renew that CD, we're going to recognize that we've achieved what we wanted to do, and we're going to remove them from the journey. So what Total Expert is helping you do then is not only automating this engagement at the right time with the right message, but also automatically stopping that engagement as soon as it's no longer relevant. So it's ensuring that you're really staying engaged with your customers, that you're building relationships based on where they're at. And then the last piece that I want to touch on here is in-platform reporting that's completely customizable based on what the journey is doing, so that your marketing team can understand even more than just marketing KPIs as far as clicks or opens, unsubscribes. But with our journeys, because we are looking at all of this rich data to understand how best to communicate with the customer, we can also provide that information back to you in this reporting, so that you can really actually understand your total leads who have started this journey. You can understand in this case, the renewals or the conversions that you're getting, as well as, those who did not convert. So we're really providing you the tools to continue to refine this so that you can really focus on building and enhancing your relationships with your customers. And now, so again, the two use cases that I wanted to focus on today were cross-sell and retention with our campaign builder and our journey builder. But what I also want to emphasize is this functionality, Total Expert as a customer engagement platform, is really built to help you meet your customer, your member, your lead, where they're at in their own financial journey. So we're going to help with things like automated onboarding, with reboarding for dormant accounts, for renewal and retention, for newsletters. So again, with the functionality, with the flexibility of these builders, which I guess I didn't even mention that this is built for business users. So again, your marketing team has the ability to go in and actually modify these journeys as you need. It really gives your institution the flexibility to really adapt with the market. And so with that, Ryan, I guess, I know we only had a couple minutes to go through a couple use cases here. So with that, I can go ahead and pass it back over to you.
Thanks, Samantha. Fantastic demo, and even more amazing that I think it was done in 7 minutes with all the great things that you showed. One of the things that I loved is that how it tied into themes that we had talked about earlier, right? Jessica talked so much about listening to your customers, understanding who they are as a way to deepen that relationship, and James, the importance of education at the right time and place, right? And Sam, showing how someone is removed from the CD renewal journey once they've already said that they're gonna continue with that product and whatnot is just is an amazing way to show how automation and a digital experience can mirror that deep relationship that you can have in person. So with that being said, we are almost at time. I'm going to ask James and Jessica, if you are a viewer on the line today and you had to take immediate action after listening to the webinar, in a minute or two, any parting thoughts and next steps that you'd encourage our listeners to do? James, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say the first thing is don't try to boil the ocean. Look at just the amount of data that you need to be able to make an impact. And a lot of times it's not as much as it seems like initially. And then be able to leverage that data to continue to react, build strategies, and build relationships with your customers or members.
Thank you, James. Jessica?
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, right? Don't overcomplicate it. What's the 80-20 rule? We're going to get 80% of the way there, right? And that's going to do an awful lot for the, for our acquisition strategies and for our customers that we already and our members that we already have on the books. So just, it doesn't need to be as complicated. You can be thoughtful about, just marrying your back end process with your customer's experience, and it'll drive really powerful results. So thanks.
Thanks, Jessica. And I'll add one more. If you saw a demo of Samantha showing the Total Expert platform and you don't want to learn more, I'm surprised. We're going to need to figure out a way to wake you up. So get a demo of the Total Expert platform if you don't know all the nuances and details of how it can help, even just to learn a bit more. So with that, Jessica, James, Samantha, thank you so much for joining. Thank you most of all to our viewers for tuning in again. Know that a recording of this webinar will be sent out within 72 hours, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Expert Solutions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.